In the last video on defluoridation, we were discussing membrane process for removing fluoride from the water. So in that we have already discussed about the reverse osmosis or the RO plant. Now let's see what other membrane processes are used for defluoridation of the water. So next one is nanofiltration membrane process, right? So nanofiltration, in short written as NF, is a latest innovation among all the membrane processes utilized for defluoridation of the water, though not very commonly adopted till now in India, but still it is considered as one of the important methods. Now compared to RO membrane separation, nanofiltration has bigger pores than those utilized for the reverse osmosis, right? The membrane has got bigger pores and therefore it offers less resistance to entry of both the solvent and the solute. Hence, now because of the bigger pores, pressures needed are much lower, energy requirement is less, removal of the solute is substantially less, right? Because the pores are bigger, removal of solute is substantially less, flow is faster, water can easily pass through the nanofilters, so therefore the flow is faster, and the optimum fluoride concentration in the water can be accomplished by changing the operation condition, right? So what are the advantages? High productivity. A large quantity of water can be treated at a short time. So high productivity. This also, because it is a membrane, you are not adding any chemicals for the removal of fluoride. So no chemicals are needed. And whatever you are expecting, it lives up to expectation under a wide pH range, right? So you can treat water and wastewater having varying pH values using nanofiltration. And then the interference because of the presence of other ions is generally not observed, right? Any other ion which is present in the water is not going to interfere with the fluoride removal, right? That is the meaning of the fourth one. Interference because of the presence of other ions is not observed. And this process gives an effective barrier to suspended solids, all inorganic toxins, organic micropollutants, pesticides and microorganisms. Right? It is a effective barrier, so it can help in the removal of suspended solids, inorganic toxins, organic micropollutants, pesticides and microorganisms apart from removing fluoride. Disadvantages is a highly expensive technique when compared to other defluoridation techniques. It is prone to fouling, scaling or membrane degradation, right? So when a large quantity of suspended particles get trapped in the membrane and interfere with the passing of the water, then it is called as fouling. In detail about fouling we will be studying in the methods of filtration, membrane filters. Right? We will see later on what it is, how you can prevent all those kind of things. Right? Scaling, as you know, deposition of salts. And membrane degradation, right? The membrane gets spoiled after using, right? So these nanofilter membranes, they can get fouled easily, scaling will become a problem and the membrane itself can be degraded. It removes all the ions present in the water, therefore here also, just like in the RO plant, remineralization of the treated water is required. Right, so water coming out of the nanofilters require remineralization because its mineral content becomes very, very low. So that is a very brief about nanofiltration. So anyway, we will be studying in detail what are the pore sizes, what are the problems using all these different kinds of filters in a different topic. Here, as only for defluoridation fluoridation process, whatever is required, only that I am mentioning here. Now C is electrodialysis. It is the removal of ionic compounds from aqueous solution through ion exchange membranes under the driving force of an electricity. Right? Now electrodialysis is just like the reverse osmosis, and the main difference is the current. In reverse osmosis, you have seen you are applying pressure. while as in electrodialysis you are applying current. For what? To separate the ionic contaminants from the water, right? To remove these unwanted ions from the water, we are using electrodialysis. And it is not suitable for rural areas because of excessive use of electricity, which may not be possible in the village. It is inexpensive pre and post treatment. It is flexible. Low chemical requirement is there. High water recovery. Disadvantage is only separation of ionic compounds is possible. Others like turbidity, suspended particles, they cannot be removed like in the membrane filters. And specific power consumption is required. Those are the disadvantages. Now, adsorption is the most popularly used and widely studied method for defluoridation, and you will see if you search in the internet many papers, research papers, where people have used different methods of adsorption, different materials for removal of fluoride, and this is considered to be a very effective and cheap method also. Now, as compared to other procedures of defluoridation, adsorption is prominent because of its straightforwardness and accessibility of extensive variety of adsorbents. So you can use a variety of adsorbents, whichever is available near you, and defluoridate the water. Now, adsorption onto solid surface is very straightforward. It is very flexible and suitable procedure for treating drinking water systems, particularly for small quantity in a small area, small village, small industrial colonies, right? So adsorption method will be very suitable. And adsorption technique is also efficient, and it can remove ions over a variety of pH. So varying pH values also you can use the adsorption technique. Now, a few adsorbent materials have been tried in the past to check their possibilities and techno-economic feasibility as a defluoridating specialist, right? So different materials have been tried as an absorbent for the removal of fluoride from the water, and some of them are, you can see here, variety of adsorbents can be used. Activated alumina, activated carbon, activated alumina coated silica gel, calcite, activated sawdust, activated coconut shell powder, activated fly ash, groundnut shell, coffee husk, rice husk, magnesia, serpentine, tricalcium phosphate, bone charcoal, which is also called as a bone char, activated soil sorpent, and the research is still going on to find out more and more new absorbents which are easily available, which are very cheap, and which can be used in rural areas also. Now, the use of adsorbents are very easy of operation. Procedure is worthwhile. High productivity for fluoride removal and can remove up to 90% of the fluoride. It can produce high quality water, and the regeneration is not difficult. Disadvantage is the disposal of the depleted adsorbents and the concentrated regenerated adsorbent makes an issue, right? So you have to dispose of the depleted adsorbents once it is used for some time. Afterwards the adsorbent is not going to work, so you have to regenerate it, right? So just like in the zeolite process, so that can become an issue. And as the time passes, the effectiveness of the adsorbing power of the material goes on reducing, so there is a drop in the removal effectiveness. Many of these adsorbents are highly pH dependent, so they are working properly at a particular pH only, so they are pH dependent. So depending on which adsorbent material you are using and which pH is suitable for that material had to be taken care properly, and you have to maintain that pH only, right? High concentration of total dissolved solids can bring about fouling of the alumina bed, right? So that is another problem. So these are all the different methods of defluoridation. which you can use in the defluoridation, right? So much detail is not required. You can explain about the Nalgonda technique, which I have discussed in the last video, Nalgonda technique, and others you can just mention 2 or 3 lines and their advantages and disadvantages. Now there is one more small topic which I want to tell. In the exam they will ask, draw the layout of the water treatment plant and explain the functions of each unit, right? You can see here, this is just a simple block diagram. Source of the water, then intake structures, the intake well, whatever you are providing. This about this we'll see in detail later on. Screens are generally, as I told you, included in the intake structure only. Aerators may be provided or may not be provided. Now the coagulant tank. Now you can also show first the sedimentation tank here, then a coagulation tank. Then you have a flash mixer, a clariflocculator, where after the flocculation all the particles are going to settle down, and then it goes to a filter bed, then lastly a disinfection unit, and then the distribution system. So this is the usual flow diagram of a regular surface water treatment plant. Then they have said explain the function of each unit. So in short, I have written here, intake well. The raw water is admitted from the source in these intake wells through the inlet opening, which is having a screen to separate the floating matter, which is very commonly found in the surface water. So that's what I have been repeatedly telling. Screens are included in the intake structures, right? And what for the screens are provided? For the removal of floating and suspended matter. Then you have aerators for the removal of gases from the water, the raw water exposed to the air, so that unwanted gases are driven out and more amount of oxygen is absorbed, so water becomes more fresh, right? So nowadays, because most of the time we are using water from impounding reservoirs, generally nowadays most of the treatment plants you have aerators, right? Because it is a stagnant water, impounding reservoirs, stagnant water, so lot of gases will be there in that because the water is not moving, it is not fresh, right? So aerators are nowadays generally provided. Then you can write about a sedimentation tank here. What is that? For readily settleable solids, sedimentation tank is used. Coagulation tank is used to add the coagulant into the water, and a flash mixer is used to mix the coagulant with the water properly. Then the clariflocculator has got 2 units. One is the flocculation, another is sedimentation. Floc is formed and then it is settled in the sedimentation tank. So floc gets settled down. So all these details I have already discussed in units of the coagulation tank. Here just you have to mention. Now as your filters also we have discussed, filter beds help in the removal of very fine and colloidal matter which are not removed from the coagulation sedimentation tank. So that can be removed, and after filtration you will get water which is very sparkling clear, right? Even after filtration also there is one problem, that the water can have microorganisms which are going to cause diseases. So for the final safety of the water, you have to kill these microorganisms, and any dissolved organic matter, if present, they should get decomposed. So disinfection helps in both of these. The disinfection helps in oxidation of any dissolved organic matter present in the water and also to kill the microorganism. So after this, the water will be totally safe for consumption. So then it is sent to the distribution system and it is sent for supply. Now there is another flow diagram here. There are varieties of flow diagrams you can see in the textbook. So here also you have a rapid mixer, then a flocculator, then a settling tank, then a sand filter, then you have adding chlorine, then it is stored in the clear water storage tank, and then finished water is pumped to the distribution system, right? So the function of all of these is explained here in the same way. You can write here also. These are just 2 figures. There is one more you can see here, a water treatment plant here, and then it is distributed in a overhead storage tank. This is a pump well from where it is pumped and stored in a overhead tank, and then it is distributed. So some pumps are there here. These are the primary treatment methods. Then you have a coagulation, flocculation, sedimentation, sand filter, chlorination, right? So like this. Okay, thank you.